Here we are. Business Not As Usual podcast coming at you. Vince and Mike.
You made me laugh with that.
Did I?
I don't know. You were surprised that you pressed record, I think.
No, I hit record and then anyways, it's in the video. If you want to see what we're talking about, go to the video.
It's in the video. Vince's face is priceless.
But keep listening. Yeah. But Michael, welcome to your co-hosting duties.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's exciting
to participate.
What's been going on, my friend?
It's to timestamp this near the end of August, and taking some time off. But
good for you.
Wanted to talk with you. Yeah. But it's kids are going to be going back, so I like to take these this last week before kids go back to just kind of unwind and get ready for the big September to December push. Everyone will know what I mean. Kind of the year kind of really ramps up in September. So,
right.
How about yourself?
No, and that's really interesting because especially with the kids going back to school in our current COVID environment, I mean, I got to admit, I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive, nervous. You might even say I'm afraid of them going back to school just because of that uncertainty, and this is not normal. And I thought, maybe that's a good segue into a conversation for us around fear, which is the topic of a keynote that I've got coming up in a yet to be announced event. So I'm not going to share where it's at, although by the time you're listening to this, it will have been finalized that I'm the opening keynote at the IIBA Phoenix Bad in the Desert conference, where I'm going to be talking about fear. But it's a subject that I think is really, really important because fear holds us back, and I think it holds back a lot of our transformation efforts. And so what I was hoping we could talk about today is how to manage fear in our organizations and in our transformational efforts. And just to put a bit of a stamp on it and sort of scope the conversation, and we can talk about it, but I'm not actually referring to like the fear of change. I'm not talking about fear of staff not wanting to change. I'm talking about things that happen in your project or in your program, in your transformation, that cause people to, for lack of a better term, freak out. And because they're afraid of something. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. And this is a benevolent dictatorship. So that's what we're talking about.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I've sort of set the stage from my perspective, but I'm curious, what's your take on fear in organizations?
So we're just gonna jump into it. So the fear, and you've heard me say it a lot, and it's in all the literature, and it sounds great, right? It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail as long as you turn it around or you learn from it, but it's okay. And that's good until you fail in your transformational program.
Yes.
And then people want answers. So yes, it's great. And you learn a bunch of stuff, but your sponsor is like, it's my head in the chief meetings, and it's my head who have to go in front of the stakeholders. And you're telling me we've assembled this we've got the best of the best, right? We've talked about we got all the right roles. We've picked the right people, and you come up with the first thing and it tanks. That's awesome. I'm glad you failed, but that's not good enough. So I think that's where the fear comes from. when you're all wheeling and dealing at the beginning of a project, it's all cool. But when you deliver something and it's not, let's say it flops altogether, or if it's not getting the benefits or the profits that you thought, that's where the fear comes in. And that's where people start, okay, the next time we do this, we're going to have more controls, and now we're going to have to hunker down. And I think that is the fear I think that you're talking about. And that is the fear that's hard to overcome.
Right. Yeah, because, I think every organization and every, transformation, every project for that matter, always starts out in a really good place. I think it starts out with the best of intent.
Always.
Right. We're gonna, and it all, a lot, it's funny, like a lot of, it almost becomes like buzzwords, right? We're gonna push the envelope. We're gonna
drive decision making. Yes.
Whatever.
You guys are the stars of the show.
Yeah.
The project, they get to make all the decisions.
Yeah. And you're right. In sort of theory, it works. Because I think every organization, every project thinks that they're going to be the one that is successful.
Mm-hmm.
So saying, yeah, it's okay to fail is because they don't expect to fail. And then when they do, you revert back to, you know, the command and control. Okay, whose head am I putting on a pike for this failure? And so what you end up with is people that are on the projects that know this, especially if they've been around for a while, and don't want to fail. And so in avoiding failure, end up scaling back the transformational part and do, like, you know, window dressing. They do transformation theater where it looks like you're doing something, but in actuality, you're just like enhancing a feature, or you're enhancing a product, or like you're doing something slightly better, but still safe. And that safety doesn't bring transformation. Nothing great happens when you play it safe. You know, yeah, you stay alive. That's a good thing, but you're not going, and I'm talking like, you know, cavemen, they played it safe because they didn't want to be eaten by, you know, Smilodon, which is the correct term for saber-toothed tiger. Just saying. But, you know, they then didn't hunt. They did not hunt well, at least. And so they didn't get the benefits of being a successful hunter, right? Yeah, they were alive, but so what?
Right.
Yeah. So
what?
So what? So how do we then overcome that fear? And to me, there's a very simple sort of question that I ask of myself when I'm approaching things that make me uncomfortable, because that's another thing we're talking about here, is stretching outside of our comfort zone. So, and I use this in my career and in my life. It's about looking at, not asking sort of what's the worst that could happen, because that's easy, right? Like, well, what's the worst that could happen? It could be a failure. We could all die, and it would be horrible. Yeah, that's true. But if you reframe that to, what is the alternative? Like, if we do this, what is the alternative to it? And which one is more attractive? So we want to transform. Okay, why? Why would you want to transform, Mike? Just pick a reason.
Well, many people, you should be transforming for your customer.
Okay. So,
right? To give your customer, you know, the products and services that they're expecting, to give them a better experience, which ultimately then helps with the success of your company. But it starts around the customer.
Great. So we want to transform to enhance our customer's experience. What is the alternative?
You stay the same, and you continue to make whatever you're making. Which
means, let's follow this out. This is options analysis.
In theory,
Yeah.
If you're conducting business like it's 1982,
Yeah.
in 2032, you're not going to be around.
Correct.
In
Which is
theory.
in theory.
And
right?
I say that because in the
Not
heat of the
Siri,
moment,
not
right?
Siri.
Not Siri.
My Siri
stop,
flipped on.
stop
Quiet
listening
Siri.
because I didn't say the word I didn't say the enacting word. So they're just listening
Yeah.
outright. Anyway, but I digress. But in the heat of the moment, in 2021 coming up,
Sure.
no one is caring that in 2032 you might not be around, because what they don't want is the failure today. I don't want to be the one to have the failure.
That they don't want the stink on them. The stink of failure.
Yeah. So you have to find a way to de-risk, and we've talked about it, de-risk what the delivery is going to be. So instead of dropping a large delivery in 4 years from now, what are those small things that you could deliver all the way along, that even if it's a little bit, if it's not the greatest delivery, you can still recover from, as opposed to larger deliveries that could shut down your program altogether.
I almost feel like a part of this is not having a clear vision of that future. Because if you're going through the alternative, the question that I pose, what's the option?
Right.
Most people are going to paint the negative in a very dramatic light, and it's going to prevent you from actually taking positive action in your transformation. So one of the things that organizations can do is have people rally around that vision of the future.
Right.
And again, borrowing from previous episodes, like, have the folks that are responsible for driving the transformation aligned on that vision, and then plan the work to realize that vision. And I don't know, I think, again, people are starting out with good intent, but there are too many opportunities along the way to be derailed if something goes wrong, if you have too long of a frequency of delivery. Like, you talked about delivering something in 4 years. Well, if you deliver something in 4 years and it's not what your customers want because you got your requirements 48 months ago and they're no longer valid,
correct,
that's disheartening, and nobody wants to be associated with that. And so what you end up having is people that, again, revert back to the safety of what is known. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't.
Correct.
And in transformation, you're always dealing with the devil you don't know, because you're trying to do something that you've never done before, which brings additional risk. So I agree with your suggestion that de-risk through more rapid iteration, deliver something of value, because those wins are going to build the momentum that get you to that final vision in 2032.
Yes. And if it's not the greatest delivery, right? If it's not, you're not getting the uptake, or you're not getting the sales that you thought, at least it's not a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money, right? You could go explain that it was like a 2-month delivery, and the outlay of money and resources wasn't that high, and it couldn't be fixed.
Right.
But if the delivery is a year and a half and millions of dollars, and then it doesn't hit, then the sponsor, the stakeholders, your board of directors, they're all going to be asking, what have you done in the last, how did you miss so bad in
Yeah.
such a delivery.
Yeah.
And that's where the
What
fear
went
comes
wrong?
from.
Right.
And so that's when you have these long latency, these long deliveries, that's where, and you know, time kills deals.
Mhm.
That's where you start off with best of intentions, agile, having people decide, giving them, empowering them. And as you go along and as the time continues and goes on, and as the risk gets higher, that's where you start to see the fear roll in and
Yes.
things start to change. Like
Yes.
there's a time, and it all depends on your company, where things are moving, you're doing all the right things, you're horizontal, you're allowing people to rate the mic to sit. But then there's a time where it hits, and then you were like, wait a minute, we're spending a whole lot of money. It's been a whole lot of time. What exactly is going on in there?
Right.
And that's what you don't want.
Right.
You as a person who's doing all the work, but also in the program, because once people start looking, you start getting super conservative what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I kind of get it too. Like, this is not about dumping on people and take risks and live life on the edge. Like,
listen, if it's your money, you're going to start being, hold on a second.
For
what
sure.
exactly is going on in here?
And that's
right?
What it is, though. But like, people are managing, they're managing the transformational effort, but they're also trying to manage and build a career. And so that's where, you know, avoiding those stretch goals, those things that do cause you to step outside of your comfort zone,
you
know, can lead to a reverting back to the safety of what you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're doing the transformational program a disservice, but you're doing it because you want to make sure that you still have, you know, what you need to survive. So, like, I get it. I'm empathetic to that. But you have to get to a place where you are extending beyond, and you're doing it in a much more micro way, versus we're going to go 0 to 100 in 4 years, and then when you only get to 85, it's deemed a failure. Right? So people are trying to build careers, and I get that. It just, you can't let that be a driving force for in preventing your transformation.
So I also think something that we did talk about is, have you told the story of the transformation in a compelling way to the rest of the organization, to the C-suite, to your stakeholders, that it's so compelling that they're willing to, if something doesn't hit the way you thought, they're still all in, right? And you've seen it as well. If you don't if you don't give them that compelling vision, anytime there's something that goes wrong, they're like they don't know why you're doing it, and it's a step back. So we need to rethink this, as opposed to, if they have the vision and they're all bought in, they'll be more willing to let you work out, you know, have maybe something doesn't hit as good as it should be, but you're going to fix it. If you don't have that compelling vision that you've sold to them, they're not going to give you that leeway to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I drew a parallel to something that I've been sort of pondering for the last little bit, which is, you know, around BA PM project conferences or training, and how, to me, how they promote themselves is broken. Like, every email that I get, hey, come to my conference, 30 professional development hours, and it's like, but the sell for me to come to your conference or to take your course should be fulfilling my professional development responsibilities for PMI
Right.
or IIBA. It should be in creating a compelling vision of the course
That's
and
right.
why I need to be there, not come sit in a room and then tell your association so that you get credit for
Right.
it's like time served.
Well,
And
they're not really doing a compelling vision of
no,
why you want to go here and what you're going to learn and what you're going to get out of it.
no, they're telling you,
Except some credits.
yeah, you need hours to maintain
We
your
have
certification.
we have hours.
We have hours. Like, and so I'm trying to flip that in my own courses to like, here's the value, here's the course, here's why it's important, and here's why you need to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And the professional development hours are secondary. I actually don't even list them, which some people have told me that I'm crazy. But to me, that other way is a broken way of selling, because then it's just a race to the bottom. I have to get hours. I'm going to find the cheapest way to get hours.
Correct.
Right? You can get free hours if I read an article. Like, so why am I coming to your conference? And so I think it's a broken way of promoting it. And I think that's a lesson for folks that are going through these transformational programs, is to sell that vision. Like, why do I want to be a part of it? Mm-hmm. Whether I'm a part of the program directly or whether I am a business area or stakeholder who will be affected by it, why do I want to give you time and money and resources and the benefit of the doubt? Why do I want to invest my time and my money in you?
Right.
And that, I don't think, is the story that's being told. And in reality, it's a hard story to tell, but it's the right story, because it does get you that support and that buy-in when things don't go well.
Mm-hmm. So what you just said reminded me of something I watched yesterday called the Biggest Little Farm, which is a really good documentary on Netflix. But what they did was, long story short, couple decided to give it all up and go into sustainable farming, where they created an ecosystem, but they do nothing, right? But they partnered with a guy who had the vision in his head, and they bought that vision. And it didn't go swimmingly. Like, over the course of 7 years that they've been doing this, things went wrong. Like, coyotes broke in and got the chickens. And then as they started building the farm, more pests came. And so instead of getting all riled up, like, everything led to something else, and they started getting frustrated. And what kind of turned it around was when he realized that instead of thinking this as a problem, just step back and see what could be the solution, because you're always going to have problems. And just because you do something to set an expectation doesn't mean you can't revert that back. And what I mean by that was, these coyotes were always killing their chickens. So in frustrations, he shot one, which was not what he wanted to do. So the next time a coyote broke in, the expectation of the entire farm was he's just going to go shoot coyotes, instead of thinking, oh, you know why you need a coyote? Because they go after the gophers. And so, but that all came from that compelling vision, and then sitting back and problem solving.
Right.
And I take that to a transformation. It's always, just think that's always going to go wrong, and your job is to problem solve all the way along. But if you take it that everything's going to be awesome, when a problem comes, that's where the fear comes, and that's where you're not going to get as far as you thought you would.
Right. So then the fundamentals of program management might be broken, because they always start with not the vision, but like this is the greatest thing to ever happen. Once we get it done, it's going to be the greatest thing ever.
Once we get it done.
And let's and everyone wants to be involved, and it's going to be amazing, groundbreaking, earth-shattering. let's go. So they're already setting up for, as soon as there's a problem,
It's a problem.
It's a problem,
Yes.
as opposed to,
It's the
okay,
other way.
Yeah.
You have a vision that what you want to get to, but every lever you put is not going to be the greatest one that you pulled, right?
Mhm.
There's going to, all the way along, you're going to find problems. And if you continue to go, oh, that's a problem, and then that is not the mindset. You're
Mhm.
always going to get a problem in any transformation. It's, does everyone believe enough in the vision that you're going to problem solve? So you
Right.
should just start with, it's always going to be a problem.
Right.
And your job is to problem solve.
Right. Here's the problem we're trying to solve.
All the time.
Here's what it will look like when we solve it.
Correct. That is the vision. This is what it's going to look like when we solve it. But we're going to come across problems every time.
Right.
And I think that's would get away from the fear of we're not going to succeed, because you've already created this great vision that nothing's going to go wrong.
Right.
Something's always going to go wrong. But can you problem solve enough to get out of it?
Right. You almost need to, through space and time, put yourself into the future state.
Yes.
And then look back and feel embarrassed for how you do it today. Like, we're going to do that. We're going to solve this. We're going to make things easier for our customers. And they're going to wonder why we ever used the fax machine. They're going to wonder.
Right.
Right. Like, you've got to take that. So it's
that is the vision. It's what does it look like? Not how you're going to get there.
What is the solution?
Right. This is what it's going to look like.
Right.
And then how you're going to get there is the journey. Not we've laid out the journey and we're going to get here. And now anytime there's a deviation from the journey, we have a problem, because now we need to do a change request. And that's what starts the fear. And then the rollback of where you want it to be.
Right. I feel like we're back at the beginning.
We are. Because if it was easy, everyone would get through moving their business to a 2030 business.
Right. Well, in 2020, yes. So I mean, if you had one tip for overcoming fear, just to sort of wrap this up, what would it be?
Oh, I think it's two.
Okay.
So there's going to be problems all the way along. Your job is to solve those problems. It will never be the easy path. And two, to make it an easier path, you should have small deliveries that even if something goes wrong, it's not enough for people to set the alarm bells. And all those small deliveries all the way along will get you to the vision that you always thought you were going to have.
For me, I think it's the need to change or to tweak. Change is scary, but we need to, I think organizations need to actually mean what they say when they talk about failure and pushing the envelope.
Right.
And so I think, organizations need to embrace intelligent failure, not failing for failure's sake, but don't execute people that try something that is attempting to take you to a new place,
right,
and fall short.
Right.
And so that is the $18 billion question, because company culture is the game. But I think if more organizations started actually practicing what they preached, as far as fail fast and don't be afraid of trying new things, I think a lot of that fear goes away, because in the end, people are afraid for themselves and for their careers, and that puts them in an unfair position.
Agreed.
Wow. Excellent. This has been interesting.
I don't know if I feel that we did answer. We didn't. I think it's such a hard question that everyone struggles with.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if we've answered the question,
or if you even can answer the question.
Right.
Like, I think we've taken 30 minutes to try. I think we've maybe touched on things, but fear is so subjective too. Like, my fears are different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so enigmatic that it's a difficult riddle to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with that, I think
I would love to hear what people think. Have we touched a nerve? Did it spark something? Do you have other thoughts?
What are you afraid of?
Yes.
I'm curious, and I'm using a little bit of that for that talk that I've got coming up. Is like, what are you afraid of, and what's holding you back? Because that's what fear really does, is it holds you back. But let us know at michaelmartino.ca or at vincentmirabelli.com. And until the next episode, this has been the Business Not As Usual podcast with Vince and Mike.
See you next
See you
time.
later.